So welcome. Today is our Art of Crowdfunding class, and we have a good group here today. I'm happy to see you all. I'm Kathy Lowe, the director of the incubator, and Carl is going to give us some tips and hopefully help us with the newest form of fundraising, which is crowdfunding. So I asked Carl how to pronounce his last name, and he said if you're from Kentucky, you say Knoblock, and if you're from anywhere else, it's Knoblock. So I'm from Virginia, so Carl, Carl Knoblock.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. I think one of the things they wanted to do was kind of find out where you're from and what you do, so then it kind of helps the conversation go in the right direction as we go forward dealing with that. So I guess, can we start over here? You can give your name and what organization you're from.
Christina Morris. I'm the youth coordinator for the Southwest Virginia Medical Reserve Corps. I'm on the board of Ecumenical Faith in Action.
I'm Sharon Stevens. I work at Countryside Realty, but we also are involved with the horse shows at the fairgrounds.
Okay.
I'm Linda Austin with Hands of Feet Ministries. We do jail and prison ministry in the local correctional institutions.
I'm Deborah McCroskey, and I'm with the Bristol Herald Courier in marketing and advertising.
Okay.
I'm Tammy Beebat. I'm also with Linda with Hands and Feet Ministry.
Okay.
Yep, Tom Fleckenstein with Virginia Highland Small Business Development Center.
Haley Stewart with the Abington Farmers Market.
Okay.
Hi, Jerry Dombey. I'm a business banking specialist with Wells Fargo Bank.
Great.
I'm January Tankersley, soon to be with the Alzheimer's Association.
Cindy Green with People Incorporated. We're a nonprofit economic development agency, and we offer small business loans and training and technical assistance to entrepreneurs throughout the year.
I'm Tasha Snyder. I'm also with People Incorporated. I'm the senior business trainer and marketing coordinator.
Jeremy Repass. I'm also with People Incorporated, and I'm the business development manager.
Hi, I'm Jody Keenan with Virginia SBPC.
I'm Sue Wagner at Virginia Highlands Small Business Development Center.
I'm Brian Manhunt, Greg Austin.
I'm Robin Maley. I'm with the Bristol Ballet.
Martha Keys. I'm president of the Historical Society of Washington County.
Okay.
And I'm Amy Looney. I'm the coordinator for the historic properties in Abington.
Great. And then,
I'm Charlene Droyd, and I have cottages on the Creek Ranch.
okay, great. Well, fantastic. The one thing about crowdfunding is it was something that started back only in 2009. And you've all kind of heard the name Kickstarter. They were the ones that started it. So you figure it's only 6 years old. And that organization generates $2 billion a year in revenue. So it's a program that has literally taken off. And we'll go a little bit more on kind of telling you where to go. But today it's really just kind of a high-level talk with it. And after that, if you want to talk more specifically, happy to work with that to try to get you going in the right direction. For me, how have I been involved in crowdfunding? I got involved in it back in 2011, and I've done 24 campaigns, and I've helped others with just pieces of their campaign. So it's kind of a thing of trial and error, and you learn from mistakes, and if you do it right, you typically will get success. As you look at this and you see the ones that are on Kickstarter, Indigo, Rocket Hub, FundMe, all them, typically only 40% hit their target. So 60% still fail. Okay, so it's just something to understand as you look forward to this. And the other thing is today is April 22nd, so happy Earth Day. So what we're going to do is talk about what is crowdfunding, the types of crowdfunding, and the art of crowdfunding. So, right here, crowdsourcing.org, it is literally the Bible. It is the hub of everything you want to know about any type of crowdfunding, crowdsourcing, anything. This is where you go. It is the source for all sources. And dealing with that. Okay, sites up. The one area I'm going to go to, you see where sites is at, up towards the top? I'm going to click on that. And what this is, you see here's the alphabet, A through Z. Those are all crowdfunding sites. There's over 400 sites to tap into.
Wow.
Okay, so let's just, since we're trying to stay with the theme of Earth Day, I'm going to 350.org. So 350.org's focus is on climate change. So that's what their initiative is, and that's where they're at, and that's how they work their operations. So these are things to think about as you are trying to, do I want to really do this and that? It's kind of like, this is where you kind of go to kind of learn some things, dealing with it. If I go back.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Who wanted to do these lines?
And on the visitor. Okay, a little bit further down on this page, it has articles dealing with it. And this one right here is actually perfectly timed because Ms. Keenan and I were just talking yesterday about this. This is an article that comes out every day, a blog that comes out every day. There's Crowd Coffee, and this one actually talks about how small businesses are not really capitalizing on crowdfunding and peer-to-peer type lending at this point. The thing is that this is the article, and I recommend that you actually go and read it, because what it talks about is really that only 2 to 3% of small businesses are actually using this as a resource. So it's a market that has opportunities. And remember, when I talk about small business, I'm also talking about nonprofits, because in my book they are businesses. So this is an avenue that you can look at also when I look at this perspective. But the thing is, it talks about the reasons why and the benefits and also the negatives with it. So it's just something to be aware of, that it does have good information, and also if you're working with millennials, this is where they go naturally. I can tell you every event that I've done, I know you guys have had your business competitions and everything like that, and pretty much every competition where there's millennials, the first place they're getting their money from is from these sites. They aren't talking about lenders, they're not talking about venture capitalists, angel investors, anything like that. They are talking here, and that's the way they think. So it's understanding that's where they're driving themselves through this process. But anyway, this is a tool that just really is, if you're wanting to learn about this avenue, it's a thing that kind of pops up at you. Anyway, what is crowdfunding? It is raise dollars in small amounts. Trying not to block you guys. Numerous people invest, and the thing is, it's all done online. So it's kind of really, what it comes down to is who's your social media network? And that's what the critical component in all this is. What is your, as I call, friend network? And what I want to stress to you is when I say friend network, it's not really the first tier of people that you know that are your friends. It's the tier after that and the tier after that. Those are the two tiers that really generate your revenue streams. And so it's understanding that as you look at this. And like I said, it's for-profit type businesses and also nonprofits. I've done both of them, and like I said, if you kind of hear some of the basic steps that I talk about today, you can run a successful campaign dealing with it. Anyway, there's 4 types that people talk about: donation-based, product-based, equity-based, and also services-based. And the one that everybody always kind of talks about, donation-based, is where you raise the dollars. And you offer awards, okay? And the thing is, it depends on what you're trying to bring to the table is what you bring as a reward. So let me give you a case in point. I worked with, all of you know restaurants. Is it easy for restaurants to get money? To get a loan? Anything like that? No, it's basically impossible in the grand scheme of things. I worked with 3 restaurants together. And they came together to actually crowdfund. And one wanted to renovate the second floor of their facility, another wanted a patio, and the other one wanted a wine cellar for special occasions. Okay? They each had their dollar figure, what they needed, and everything else. They put together their packages. Okay? And I'm not talking, you know, give me $25 and type things. I mean, they were targeting a specific thing. If you want to really deal with us, you know, like the one, you know, a special occasion down in the White Cellar, because they're special dinners type thing. You know, it was, we'll give you a party of 10 down in a wine cellar, but it was going to cost you $3,000. Okay? The thing is, that roughly a whole project was about $400,000. Okay? They got the money. Okay? But they understood how to do it. Why did they do it so well? They were millennials. They understood how to go there. They had no fear, and they knew how to pursue it. And they really thought out their packages very well. They had their campaign mapped out. And these are the critical things that we talk about when we look at this. Lots of times when we see things on a Kickstarter and everything else, they're typically looking for less than $25,000. And you'll get those that run for a home run and they'll take off and they'll get $1 million. Okay, those things do happen. Anybody been to Detroit lately? Anybody? Okay. Everybody heard of RoboCop? Okay. You know Detroit has a statue of RoboCop? And that was funded by Kickstarter? And I hate to tell you, Detroit wasn't real happy about that. But the fact is, somebody got it, funded it, and they used Kickstarter to actually kick it off the ground. So, you know, these are things you look at, that there are things that make things happen. So as we go forward with this. Then product-based, this is development of product. You offer awards or the product at the end of it. The thing is that, to give you an example, okay, all you have is either a cold drink or a hot drink with you, right? And so I worked with one company and they wanted $50,000 and it was to put a cup holder, okay? And you literally set your drink on there. And all of you own smartphones. And whether it was a hot drink or a cold drink, it pulled the energy from that and charged your phone. So this was their concept, all right? But it wasn't going to get to market for at least another year. Okay? So for a year, you were going to be waiting, and that's what you were putting your money to be one of the first ones to have it. Okay? So they got the $50,000, they got $170,000. Okay? They were cool with it and everything else. But it also, later on, I will tell you the rest of the story, that they didn't think everything out. And it's a good thing they made all that extra money, otherwise they really would have been hurt. But this is the thing to look at when people are putting these campaigns together, is did they think of everything it should be? And the one thing I want to stress from this is, you know, this luncheon is being put on by the Virginia Small Business and Supplier Diversity. Did I get that right? Good. You know, the terminology. You know, is a part of this, and then the Small Business Development Centers actually are very key ingredients to kind of help you develop the right type of campaign for this. So because you need their pieces of information that they can really supply to you as you look at this. Anyway, the other thing I want to point out, though, if you're creating a product, and you're saying, I want really people to know about it, then you better look to get, you know, provisional patent on it before you put it out there. But I tell people, if you're going to do that anyway, if you're still going to campaign, why? Because the world's seeing it. So you're good in the United States, but everybody else in the world, they could copy it and still make it, and you have no legal recourse. So I tell people, you got to kind of think this out. If this is what you're really concerned about, is this where you want to put your avenue, your dollars into? So this is things to think about as you go forward with it. Anyway, related to that, there's also equity, and we're starting to hear more about that. And actually, back in 2012, President Obama created the Jobs Act, and basically to jumpstart the businesses, they said we're going to create equity investments in crowdfunding, and it's regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission. The thing is, the Security and Exchange Commission has been very slow to implement this. And so states are stepping up and creating their own. And I commend this one, as the original proposed, is you can raise up to $1 million, and the ordinary investor can put in up to $10,000, but there are requirements that ordinary investor has to meet. Anyway, the proposed regulations that came out a year ago, I can tell you were not friendly, so a lot of people wouldn't use it anyway. It was still going to be very concentrated on angel investors and venture capitalists if they were going to get into it. So it still wasn't user-friendly. So it'll be interesting to see how the final rule looks, and that's what's come out this fall. Anyway, the other thing is, understand what you're creating or trying to get to. Because how long is it going to become commercialized? That's important for these people, because that's what they're looking for the return. And the other thing is, if you're a person that's going to need multiple rounds of seed money, then this is not the way to go. Because a venture capitalist doesn't want to talk to 20 small investors about buying out a company. That is not in their best interest. So you got to understand when to use this. And it's typically, if you think you're going to be able to go right to market, commercialize it, this is a good opportunity to go in that direction. Virginia, I commend them because they just came out with their proposed and working out the final details. 2 million max, 10,000 single, and if you're already registered accredited investor, which is basically those with the SEC, you can go larger dollar amounts. This is critical for, especially with some of your high-tech firms and things like that, this is a good route to go. DC's already gone forward, they're already active in theirs, so, you know, there's a handful of states that have taken the initiative to be at the forefront, and I commend them for that. And a lot of you, how many of you heard of Kiva or Kiva Zip? Anybody? Okay, this is what they call peer-to-peer lending. Okay, this is, example, you talked about the ballet, okay, and so I believe in that, all right? So I'm going to sit here and say, we're going to do it to Kiva Zip, we're going to go to them and ask them to raise $10,000 or $5,000 for you, okay? I'm going to put the investment, I'm vouching, because this is actually a loan. Okay, you're going to pay the loan back, all right? So it's a 0% interest, okay? So it's just basically, if I give you $5,000, you pay me back $5,000. There's not a timeline or anything, it's just that you can eventually get it, all right? The thing is that we sit here and do that. Kiva says, yes, we agree with it, it gets campaigned, and then people invest. The thing is, this has a very low default rate, because the people understand that if you don't pay back, me, a person that committed to you, will probably not commit to other people again once you pay me back. Typically what happens, you pay me back, I just give it to somebody else. So this is a thing that people have to kind of understand. And this program has done very well, and this is actually international. It just came to the United States a few years ago. So this is kind of new to the United States, but it's been being done all across the world. And it's called the village mentality. That's the concept behind it. And there are bigger amounts if you go to Kiva, the big organization where you can go for bigger deals. Anyway, the other thing is service-based. How many have ever bartered before? Okay, see, we all understand how to barter. I bartered my first business to get off the ground. So, we all understand that. Well, now there's actually websites that you can go bartering on. So, to barter your services and everything else. And then, the thing is, you know, everybody talks about cost and everything. And the one thing I want to point out is this one. How many have heard of FiberR? Anybody? Oh, good. A few people. Anyway, this is kind of where you sit here and you'll provide services, graphic design, things like that, sort of related to marketing and that, but it's at a very low cost. And people say, why do they do this? Because they're trying to get their name established. And then hopefully if you want to do more work, you're going to actually use their services and things like that. So if you want somebody to do blogs for you, want to do videos and all that, this is just literally a location that they're basically marketing the services at a very low rate. So these are things you look at that create unique opportunities when you're looking at your bottom lines. And
I've
this
had
is,
several clients use that and they swear by it. It just helped them. And they were using somebody in the Netherlands on one and
yeah,
So would that work for like an entrepreneur that needs help creating a website?
anything.
They
Yeah.
could go there and,
yeah, it's just, they kind of have to do their homework on what they're really trying to accomplish in that. Because remember, it's not gonna be this real sophisticated thing. They're gonna get a piece of it just to get, as we say, the whistle wet. And then if you want more, this is kind of what it'll be.
okay.
Yeah,
I see.
but
And are
they-
there reviews on there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, but it's a location that you can look at, and this is what we talk about, what this crowdsourcing crowdfunding has created. It has created this whole new market of things happening. And, you know, literally the globe is at your fingertips, because that's how you communicate.
Yeah.
You know, you don't really need to do a face-to-face. If you need to do a face-to-face and you're across the ocean, well, we can all Skype.
Yeah.
You know, and if you can't Skype, you can come to places like this and Skype. So, you know, you have all these opportunities that are readily available to you to make those connections that before we never really thought about. But this is the way we have to start thinking when we start looking at creating opportunities. Because the rest of the world is jumping on this bandwagon. Because remember, most of the rest of the world's population is young. Most of them are, you know, we had to learn with phones from a different time period, kind of the antique places now. But the young people in other countries, their first phone is a smartphone. So they have a totally different concept in how they deal with everything. And that's what we're dealing with, is that revolution that's going on globally.
And Carl, are you taking advantage of the exchange rate by doing that as well? I mean, because our
Yeah.
dollar is gonna,
Yeah,
it's
yes,
much
you could
more.
potentially do that.
Yeah.
Those are things you discuss, because in some countries, you know, it's just based, I only want transactions with US dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the thing you negotiate and things like that, yeah. So that becomes
But
a
let's
part.
say you were doing a video and you were wanting to tap into, the, I don't know, your Asian market, and you're doing a video and you need somebody to do voiceover for you, or take that brochure and then convert it into that language.
Yeah.
That's what some of
Wow.
those services, and having those people be able to do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's just like a service that you can choose from, whatever you want.
Yeah.
They're there.
And that's what makes it exciting. Anyway, for the for-profit, I just list the top three, really, that everybody always seems to talk about. Kickstarter, Indigo, and Rocket Hub. Okay, those are the big three. And you know, if you guys want this PowerPoint later, Sandy will get it to you. It's not a problem. But anyway, you know, looking at this, and anyway, how many have gone to Kickstarter, Indigo, or Rocket Hub before? Well, at least a handful of you have done that. Okay, so this is Kickstarter, and you know, it's amazing to see how Kickstarter has grown and matured from when it started. Unfortunately, the computer's a little bit slow, but anyway, on this right-hand side, these are the categories that the campaigns are put into. So if you're looking to do a movie, it would be a film and video, be there. If it's a type food, that's where it's going to go. Photography. This is kind of where it's designed out to be. And I'm hoping this comes up, because this is kind of a new design that's coming out on the market that I think will be of interest, especially today being Earth Day, how it looks. But the one thing with Kickstarter is, and as we go further into this conversation, we'll discuss, is number one, remember that there's fees involved, okay? So on average, between your transactions with whatever payment method you're doing and the website, it's roughly around 8%, okay? So that's what you automatically get. And why I bring that up? Because people forget to calculate that into their costs. And that's why I kept stressing earlier about using the resources locally that are around you to kind of help you with that, so they kind of remind you of these things, dealing with it. Let me see if I...
Hit F5 and see if it'll refresh for you.
But so that's one of the things that people typically forget when they do all this. they don't sit here and get everything thought out when it comes to the money. And then they sit here and they get, you know, I have people come in and they say, I just need to get $5,000. I said, $5,000 for what? And then they'll sit there and say, this is what I need it for. And then I just start asking, well, did you think of this? Did you think of this? Did you think of, no. And I said, then $5,000 isn't going to get you there. You're going to be without nothing. So dealing with this. So
Carl, you may be providing it, but is there a checklist or something that we could go through with some?
actually, you can, there's the bigger campaigners, you know, like Kickstarter and that, they actually have an overview that you can go through, and it kind of highlights some things you need to think about in that. So it's really like, you know, I tell everybody that it's things you got to think about when you're dealing with it. So, well, we'll just go on to the next one, and I'll try to come back to that, because it's really, I want to really kind of highlight the things to you dealing with it. Anyway, these are the nonprofit ones. These are the most common three that we hear about. These are things you need to be aware of. But once again, at that crowdsourcing site, all the ones that were identified are definitely out there. The big thing is, you know, when you ask people, are you ready? It is literally a job. And I cannot stress that enough. When you jump into this, it is 24/7 until that campaign's over. And a lot of people don't understand that. They think it's, well, you know, I'll check it once a day, you know, or I'll check it in the evening or whatever. That's not what this is. If you really want to get your money, you have to really commit to getting into this campaign and dealing with it. A lot of people make the mistake that they have a really great idea and they think people are going to just jump on a bandwagon and give money to it, which is a terrible misconception. And one gentleman came in to me and he sat there and he said, I want to do a documentary on the local community. And I said, okay. And he says, I'm going to crowdfund it. And I said, okay. And so then I started asking some basic questions. And I said, okay, who are you going to use as your website? And he said, Kickstarter. I said, okay. I said, do you understand their fee structure? He says, their fees? And I said, okay, we're off to a bad start. And then I started asking, okay, how much are you looking for? I said, well, I need about $12,000. I said, okay. And then I started asking a couple other questions, how his campaign was mapped out for his time period, because he was going to do a 45-day campaign. And I started asking very specific questions, and he didn't have any answers. And I said, look, I'm going to be candid with you. I highly recommend you don't do this campaign. I said, when are you planning to do it until you do more work? Now, he's talking to me on Thursday. He says, it kicks on Saturday. And I said, I highly, highly recommend that you don't do this. He went ahead and did it. Okay, so I contacted him 3 weeks into the campaign. I said, where are we at? And he says, I got $247. So he's never going to meet his target. So he just wasted a bunch of time and energy and credibility because he didn't do his homework to start off with. So those are the things we always try to tell people that you have to be aware of. And then also, you know, it was brought up earlier, that you have to kind of read the pros and cons about each one, because some have penalties, some you get the money. So if you ask for $12,000 and you only got $247, you get $247, and that's it. But the thing is, this is what we try to stress to people: kind of do your homework on these sites, and once again, use the resources locally around you to assist you with these things.
Well, when you say it's a full-time job, what do you mean by that? I mean, what is...
Once I go into this, you will see what comes into play. Remember, when this kicks off, you're global. So remember, today it's 12 o'clock here. When it's 12 midnight here, it's 12 o'clock on the other side of the world. And they're talking to you. Okay? And that's something you kind of really got to be aware of, that they are going to communicate. And the challenge you have is they may communicate and it'll come up in their native language, and you're going to sit here and say, I don't even know what they're asking. So you got to try to figure out how to connect. Number two, it may come and the English is not real good, or it's British English, and so you gotta stay very in tune, and it's just the culture, but you gotta work within that and be aware of that. The other thing is that, you gotta be a certain age. You gotta see requirements, not only here, but also other ones. And then, you gotta have a major credit card, debit card, those type things. And then if you have to set up a special account, through Amazon or something like that, so where the payments go during this campaign. Research is the key, and once again, I stress that with the resources. So CF stands for crowdfunding sites, so using crowdsourcing to do a review of the sites and things like that, and you'll hear comments about them and how they did the work and things like that. The one thing I want to stress to you though, this is not something where you just say, here's my campaign, take it. They actually review them, and they make the decision whether it's something that fits within their perimeter to see if it's worth it. Because we have a lot of people that throw ideas up there, and they're just ideas just to see if somebody's going to actually fund it, okay? The fact is, they know that their credibility is at stake if they put bad ones up there that show no return. That gets out in the social media world very quickly. So for them, it's very important to put credibility to it. So that's why I also stress to people, when you look at these sites, the ones that are established have this criteria. There's others that don't have this criteria, but that should tell you what you're going to get in return too. So it's kind of doing the homework as you look at this.
I can't help but think of potato salad ingredients. How did that one pass?
But remember, what they're looking at is interest. Is there an audience that...
Well, there was.
Yeah,
but who
that's
would
what they
know?
talk about.
Yeah.
Some of the things that we think logically, there's no way I'd put any money to that. But remember, we're talking the world, and when you think about potato salad, there are people that are really into potato salad and things like that, and people say, no. And I said, no, think about it. I mean, there are people really into roller coasters, and they want to go everywhere. And so why wouldn't it also be potato salads that in different parts of the country, in the world, we eat potato salad, it has a different flavor. So it's all possible, at the end of the day. So that's kind of what we look at. Anyway, two ways to crowdfund. One, you could go to a Kickstarter, Indigo's, whatever, and use them and you pay the fees. Or if you have a really good website and you have a good network, social network, you can do it from your website. And I've worked with companies that have done that, and they've done very well. But that's because they had a strong social network. And these are things you look at as you're looking to go forward. Which way should I go? And it's thinking totally different, in this context. So, if you're very strong in a local community, and that's kind of where you're going to try to pull the dollars from, then look at your own website and how you sit here and set up your campaign and things like that. But this is how I tell people, step back and look always at your options, and then choose the one that's going to be best for you as you go forward. The thing is, whether it's a product, service, or event, people are just looking to find something interesting. The third bullet is the most important. 30 seconds, the first 30 seconds, I don't care which video you're watching, the first 30 seconds is whether they stick with you or they're gone. And that's what I keep trying to tell everyone. And and that's why I was hoping to pull this one up, because I wanted to show you and illustrate the challenges. Hopefully I'll go back to see if we can get it. But the thing is that this is the critical component in all this, is getting people really interested in that product in that first 30 seconds. And a lot of people, they'll be jabbering away. I'll give you an example. One night I was at a major university helping a grad student on a project, and the young lady showed me the Kickstarter site and this campaign, and it was for coffee. Now, how many coffees do we have in the world running around, right? And it was two young men that lived in the DC area. Okay, so I'm in Pittsburgh, right? So she shows it, she says, what's your thoughts? I said, I wouldn't put any money to it. And I'm sitting there, and she says, why? And so I started listing the reasons why. Well, as I'm saying it, millennial, she's typing. It's going directly to them. In 5 minutes, they call me. And they ask, can you help us? Because we're doing bad. And I said, I know you're doing bad. I can tell you. You know? And the thing was, is that we had the conversation, all right? And one of the things was, we were trying to figure out, okay, what is so unique about your coffee? Because it doesn't show anything. I mean, all you're doing is you act like you're in the dorm room and you're just kind of sitting there saying how great your coffee is, you know, at the end of the day. So what is it that makes it different? So we started talking to them. I said, come on, give me a tag. Give me a tag that really connects. And they said, it's like a roller coaster. And I said, great, it's coffee that gives me a peak and then gives me a real bad feeling down low. And he said, no, that's not what I mean, that's not what I mean. I said, okay, what is it? He says, it's the rush. I said, okay, I got the rush. All right, so now I got it. So then we start working, and I said, okay, you like riding roller coasters? She says, oh yeah. I said, all right, start thinking about the different roller coasters around the world, because you want to use coffee beans from around the world, your combination, and start thinking the name of the roller coasters that tie to that, how that coffee's going to taste. All of a sudden, they're running rampant. They said, oh, we'll design our bags so those roller coasters are. I said, yeah, but you got copyright issues, so be aware of that. And so, but the thing was, they were running at that point. And then at that point, they changed their whole campaign. They made it. But the thing is, that's how you got to look at this. So as you're going through this, and like I said, their first 30 seconds, it was pathetic. So, and that's what you try to identify with. Anyway, this is another key component. This is what a lot of people do not do. They do not figure out the cost of how much they actually need. So what's the cost of the project? What's the cost of the rewards I'm going to offer? You know, people forget about it. They say, well, I'm going to offer t-shirts. I said, good. So how much are t-shirts? You know, and are you going to put anything on the t-shirts? And how much is that? And everything. So to give you a case in point, the group I told you made the $170,000, okay? They had this really cool design t-shirt, okay, for the lower ends. You know, and they got a really great price on the t-shirts, $250 a piece. And so they thought they were way ahead. What they didn't figure into their costs was shipping. Okay? They had requests from 70 different countries. And they said, Carl, you know, I'm shipping a $2.50 shirt to Japan for $12. And I said, yeah, that don't sit too well, does it? He said, no, and that's the whole thing. Once again, using the local resources, they can kind of get you to think about this. Okay, you can identify where you'll ship to and where you'll not. You know, these are little things to think about. And if you're going to ship to a particular area, and you know the cost, and you know it's really expensive, you sit there and say, okay, I'm only going to ship 50. So you already figured out into your cost that the first 50 from that area, that's the only ones that can get it. Everybody else, sorry, you're out. You know, these are decisions you make as part of your campaign, but this is what we look at. The other thing is I talk about the payment fees, you know, as you could look at these type things. The other thing, there are taxes, you know, when you're a for-profit entity. Non-profit's a different issue, but for a for-profit entity, there are taxes involved. And those are things you can look at. The other thing that a lot of people don't forget about, they think, all these people pledge this money to me, they're going to give it to me. They don't. There's roughly 10 to 20% that basically we send. So I always tell people, figure that into your calculation when you're looking at things. Okay? Now the services, but really financial projections. Once again, the organizations were identified earlier, are the organizations that you should be looking at to assist you with these type things. The thing is, you know, people always talk about who gives. It's not the friends and families. The repeat backers are the people that go to those sites. And roughly it's about 20%, so they give money on a continuous basis. The average pledge from a person is about $25. Okay, on Kickstarter, the average pledge, figuring everything, total, all big projects, everything, it's about $70. Okay, but that's typically what you're getting. So remember how many of these you got to get to your target. Yeah, and so it seems astronomical, but it's happening every day. You know, people are just very committed to the situation. Anyway, who gives? The thing is, once again, the host site is not where revenue grows from, okay? It's the social network outside that, your friend network, that creates those opportunities. And the most critical component in this whole thing is the story. The story, the story, the story. That's what gets people connected to you. The other thing is that if you're going to campaign, and as I talked earlier about your 24/7, you want to have media already lined out. Who am I going to go after in certain time periods of this? Whether it's local media, whether it's national media, magazine, whether it's bloggers, you have this already thought out. So that way you know how to connect to them depending on how you're doing in your campaign as you go through this. The other thing is, you know, do you want a unique website for your campaign or use what you already currently have? These are things you have to decide. The other thing is getting the buzz going about it before it even releases, so your social media network's already hyping it for you, so it starts carrying some opportunities. And lots of times, you know, this is where people fail. They kind of just throw it out there, and I said, guys, you've got to be grooming everyone so they see it and they're prepared for it, so they know when it releases, they're kind of on board with it. And this is a thing that lots of times, you know, people kind of just negate.
What is typically, do people typically set up a unique website for it?
No, I mean, it's really choice. You know, it depends on how well your website is. If you want them to venture further into your current website for other things, you can do that. It just really depends how strong you feel your website is.
Okay.
You know, and that's the thing that you'll have to decide. If it's very elemental, no, create an elemental.
Okay. I guess that would also depend on the audience of your,
Yeah.
that go to your
Good.
website too.
Right.
If it's not your target, then you might want to venture out.
Yeah, excellent point. Thank you. The other thing is duration. You know, earlier we were talking about there are sites you can go to and you can have your money, and you know, when you get to your target, you get to your target. Maybe 6 months from now, and I said that's not how you really get success. You know, because information is continuous flowing. The best way I analogize this to, okay, all of us when we're growing up that are older in my generation, remember the TV shows with the taglines. Okay, so you remember the tagline, you know, something that sticks with you forever, you know, like where's the beef and things like that. Those are things that today, if I ask you, is there a tagline? Nobody can think of taglines because taglines are gone. Today, the world's based on YouTube. And then I ask people, what YouTube did you see last week? Nobody can tell me because that's what's happening. It's changing that quickly. So the longer you have your campaign run, it's just diluted. So you got to understand, so when I said it's a job, it's literally a job for that time period. Now, if you're wanting just to kind of take a long cruise, then fine. It's really not a job at that point. You're just waiting to see if people give you money or not to your target. But if you're serious, this is kind of the typical campaign lengths. 30 days is the best. And that's where you typically get the most success rate. So it's kind of how you choose where you want to go with it. So, looking at it.
Do you have people that'll run, let's say a 30-day campaign, maybe they get halfway to where they're going to be, or most of the way where they're going to be, and then they run another campaign? Is that how they typically do it?
No, actually, what it is if they're, and we'll talk more about that, it'll come up in a second when I'll point that out to you. Anyway, during this duration, it's constant communication. I mean, because you've made yourself open. Email, phone, everything. You literally have made yourself open for that time period. And you're getting called.
Phone calls?
Yeah, if you're really serious about this. You know.
At all hours of the night.
I'm telling you, when I was working, I was getting calls from international countries and things like that. We were working. You know. But that's because we knew what we wanted to do. And that's why I tell people, it's understanding who your audience is. And if you know it's going to go global, and you know you're going to have global interest, you just got to take that into a stride. When we did that, one piece we knew was a global product, so we knew we were going to deal with it. You know, if something's more local, no, you don't have to worry about it. You know, if the streets close at 7, you don't have to worry after 7.
Can you restrict it to just the US?
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is that, remember, the people are gonna sit here and connect to what really interests them, okay? Example, anything that's a product, it's a global issue. You know, anything electronic, whatever, games, all that, that's global. If it's a product that's like tied to a documentary, it's typically where it really interests either that region, that part of the world. That's all you'll see the investors come from, you know, donators and that. So it pretty much grooms itself out. You may get an outlier who happened to visit the area years ago and really enjoyed it and just wanted to show their commitment and interest. So it really does pan itself out.
I think I'd be worried if I did send you a message or phoned you and you didn't respond 24 hours,
Immediately.
48 hours. I don't think they're gonna get money from me.
Well, and actually we'll talk about that.
Would you loan me money?
I
But,
like my sleep is a problem.
yeah, well, but see, this is where you have teams. Okay, this is where you design your teams. If you know that you potentially will have contacts after hours, as we say, you have teams. And that's what we have, we have teams. And so you set up for that. But the thing is that, you know, understanding where you're at in the campaign. So if you're ahead of schedule, if you've done your campaign right, if you're ahead of schedule, you already have what you're gonna say. If you're behind schedule, you already have made up what you're gonna say. If you're on target, you already have made up what you're gonna say. So it kind of tells you how you have to push and keep the buzz going to keep the revenue coming. So the one I was telling you about, we're 170,000. Okay, I will tell you, that one kicked out the campaign so quick, it was on target to make $1 million. That's how fast it was going. But what they did is, once they hit 170, they stopped doing any social media. They got hardly any money. That's how important social media is in this. Okay? So that's why I tell people, if you don't respond, 24 hours is too late. Okay? They're expecting somebody to be there for them. And so this is the thing that we try to bring up when you get into these things.
And of course, a lot of the things that you can do here with this constant communication, based on what you just said, is part of your campaign planning is to plan your script as you go along.
Yeah.
For what you're gonna say when you hit the first 1,000 and what you're gonna say, and so that's part of that work ahead of time to put all that messaging together.
Right.
Okay.
And the thing is that a lot of your messaging, you know, you can put it on time delay and
Right.
you can release it when you want.
Right.
You know, you can release it at 3 o'clock in the morning, it looks good, but, you know, you're in bed sleeping, but
Yeah.
on the other side of the world, they're seeing, oh, they're there.
Right.
You know? And so that's the thing you look at. But that's what makes it, like I said, 168 hours if you're global.
I guess it's key to keep all your team members communication, because you need to know the last thing, well, I didn't hear that, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I didn't know we were supposed to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is how a campaign typically goes. So it starts out, I'll just use a 30-day campaign that first week. That's kind of where you generate a lot of your revenue. Then it just really drops. And I mean, it just drops. And because it's just, nobody's really interested. Because there's those people that want to be at the start of it, and everybody always wants to be at the end of it, that they help them reach their goal.
Oh.
Okay, so being in the, down here doing something, it's kind of like, that's not real exciting, you know, that has no buzz to it. So it's kind of understanding that's how your campaign is actually going to go. And then the thing is, when you get to the end, that's when you have a whole different strategy to get yourself pushed over the hump. And dealing with it, that's if you're close to it. So this is the things you look at when you're dealing with this. And that's what we talk about. Knowing this is typically how the umbrella goes with the whole thing is, how do I get there? As I tell people, if you're not over close to 50% at the here, hang it up. Odds are totally against you. You're going to hit your target. So, you know, pretty early on, you know whether you're going to get there or not. And it's how you actually come out of the gate. You know, so it's things to think about. Unless you have something at the end that's just going to be a real kicker and just totally change it. You know, you're the only one who knows that or not. So, because you look at this. Some grand prize that just came out of the woodwork. that will just entice people to jump on. So, when you look at it. Anyway, the video is very critical in this. And it's be real, it's 2 to 5 minutes. It's get to the point in the first 30 seconds. And really what they want to see is passion. I mean, those of you who have been on the site have seen some real, I'm wondering if they're breathing or not, because the way they present. You know, it's that passion that gets people enticed and interested in you when you deal with this. If you have a product and it's not officially made yet, you know, going to a tech or a fab shop, getting a 3D type product made, or a CAD drawing, something to give people a clue of what it's going to look like, comes into play. So then that, once again, it's using those resources in the community to kind of tap into it. Once again, you can use students that are training in AutoCAD and things like that to take it. But if you can entice the 5 senses into your video, it really makes a lot of help and gets people really interested in you, you know, where you're trying to connect into that. I cannot stress, please stay away from copyright type things, music, all that, arts, unless you got approval and clearance, because everything you might create could be taken down very quickly and you have a lawsuit facing it. And you just don't want to be in that situation. The video, please take your time. Definitely people forget how to say how to donate. But the thing is, you want it to go viral through this. And then also having addendums to your original video that you want to add based on kind of what's happening in your campaign. So it's kind of having that thought out. So you already have it all done before you even kicks off. Anyway, these are avenues. Once again, you know, the video just doesn't have to stay on Kickstarter. It gets to go every place. So you can put it on Twitter, you know, you can throw it on YouTube, you can throw it every place. You know, the idea is just to get the message out. You know, so don't forget that. The rewards, please make them make sense and don't make them cheap. You know, it's better to do no rewards than to sit here and give garbage, because that sends a reflection of really who you are. And then, like I said, logistics is a big piece. And if you got a product that potentially could go international, you better be figuring out your costs dealing with that.
On the rewards, do you tie those to like a dollar amount? So, I mean,
Yeah.
you have to make a minimum donation.
Yeah, and actually I wish I could pull up, I'm going to try to come back to pull that website so I can show you, because that's basically what it did. It was broken down. It showed you what dollar you give, this is what you get. If you give this, this is what you get. Like your high dollar items, typically you may only have 2 or 3. You know, that are being offered, and whoever gets those, that's it. There's no more. So it's kind of broken down in that arrangement, but you're absolutely correct in what you brought up dealing with it. And then the other thing is people look at it, they will ask if you're willing to offer other rewards. So they're actually trying to negotiate, especially international negotiation. So you have to sit here and say, is this possible? And then you sit there and you say, okay, what potentially revenue could I get from this if I do it? So this is kind of how you're looking at it when they're doing touches. And please do the personal touch. Please send those nice thank yous out once it's over with, so they are aware that you appreciate what they did for you, and hopefully they'll enjoy what you're giving to them.
Carl, do people also, you know, 6 months down the line, it's talking about saying thank you, do they follow up with their folks, because you may have something else that you want?
Actually, what Kickstarter has done, they've actually added a piece in theirs now to get follow-up stories about their campaign. That was always a missing piece, and a lot of people were asking that. So Kickstarter's actually added that into their thing to get an update so people understand what's going on. Reminder, the market research, the finances, once again, those resources here, the SBDC and the Virginia Small Business and Supplier Diversity Group. And then the finances, but the big thing is, what is the story? I cannot stress that enough. The story is what makes this happen. And I'm going to try to get back to see if I can not pull it up.
Flash or something, or?
Huh?
Was it in Flash or?
Would it help to close some of this other?
No, we closed a bunch, it's just the.
There's several up top though, look up there that's open.
Yeah, but I don't think that's.
No, I meant on over.
Yeah. That's all right, I'm gonna see if I can click. All right, so here's one. Okay, it's a simple versatile clip. Okay, it's got 636 backers. They only wanted a $1,500 goal. They got $16,000 already. Okay, and they still got 30 days to go in the campaign. As you were bringing up, and this is where you look at, and I'll play the video in a second, but this is kind of where they talk about pledges. So $1 or more, they talk about $7 or more, 13, 15, 26. So what they do is they identify and they tell you what you're going to get, okay, at that dollar level that you get. So, example, I helped with a campaign for, it was a non-profit project for students in a very distressed school, and it was cooking. So that there were, students were being taught, and they were having a big event at the convention center, and they wanted to get the students there. But the school didn't have the money to get them there. So basically they had different prizes. So basically I bought a bus for $250, so a busload of kids could go as part of the campaign. My name got put on the bus, big deal. The fact was the kids got to go to the event. So basically that was what the number was for $250, you know. And if you did 500, you know, you got a knife set with it, you know, cutlery knife set and all that. So this is kind of the things you look at when you're looking at your campaigns, dealing with it. But once again, let me get up to the video.
Hey Kickstarter, my name's Charles Harris and I'm the creator of Clingy's Clips. I want to take a second here and explain to you guys exactly how this project came to life. It's been kind of a wild ride, and I think you guys will appreciate the story behind it. So the wife and I had this great idea of taking a towel, incorporating a built-in neck, and sewing the towel permanently in half so that it's always folded and neat-looking. These towels can be stuck virtually everywhere, in the kitchen, in the gym, in your shop, your garage, even your barbecue. And for all those non-metal surfaces, we even created a docking dot that you can stick anywhere, creating a simple hanging spot for your towels. We launched the Clingy's project on Kickstarter, raising $27,000 with nearly 800 backers. We should be ecstatic, right? Wrong. Our shipment showed up and we eagerly did the test cycle through our washer and dryer, only to find one of the towels stuck directly over the heat inlet, singeing the towel. This was a giant red flag because the last thing we want is to burn one of our backers' houses. So it was back to the drawing board where we worked hand in hand with Seattle's Pillar Design Team, which is an amazing company that helps to bring some of the world's greatest ideas to reality, including our 3-piece magnetic Clingy's clips constructed of a flexible yet durable material, including a strong neomagnet and rubber grip. Installation is simple. Fold your towel in half, grab your Clingy's clip, center it, and snap it in place. You're now ready to hang your neatly folded towel from nearly any metal surface with quick, easy access. And for all of those non-metal surfaces, simply use our docking dots. Clingy's will work with almost any towel. They'll work as a chip clip, they'll work as a nail clip, they'll work under the hood of your car, they'll work on a weight bench, on a cardio machine. Honestly, there's a million different uses for these Clingy's clips, and we can't wait to get them in our backers' hands to see exactly how all of you are going to use your Clingy's clips. So that's it, guys. That's the story of Clingy's. I can't wait to launch this project, and I hope that we can get some more backers on board to help support us and cover some of the costs of manufacturing. I also want to thank all of our original backers for their support and their patience throughout this process. I can't wait to get the Clingy's in your hands and see exactly how all of you use your clips. Thanks for watching.
So as you can see, even when they design something, it can come back and haunt them with the whole thing. So, but this is the thing, is They could have easily just walked away and said, well, you know, I'm done. But they totally believe in what they're trying to do, so they redesigned it and basically ran another campaign and said, you know, we designed something originally, it was great, but it failed. We never thought about the dryer, and now this is the solution to that. So as we look at this. But this is kind of what they look at when you're looking to do these campaigns, is you're really trying to focus on what do I have to accomplish in this whole thing. And the thing is you go through here, it's constant communication through the site, you know, that literally keeps ongoing. There's emails. You'll see everything traffic-wise that's flowing with this particular campaign if you have an interest in it. So you can see what's going on with it. But as you see, they just, you know, these pictures didn't show up all at once. They get added just to get people interested. Say, did you think about it being used here? So all they're doing is, these are strategically thought out, and they put them in at certain phases of their campaign. And that's how you look at all this, is everything is a thought out process. When do I want to drop this in there? So then people see it, you know? So that creates that buzz, and this is a group that kind of is really going to be interested in that. So this is kind of the thing you step back and you say, okay, I got it, you know. But the thing is that going back, it's just unlike that one design. Oh, there we got it. Anyway, this one here, Planetware, as you can see, it's 56% funded. This morning it was only 39% funded.
Wow.
Okay, so anyway, so pledge 11,000. They're looking, I think, for 20,000. I think it was 169 backers, and they still got 30 days to go. So it's probably around a 45-day campaign. But yeah, 20,000. Okay. But this ties Earth Day.
Knowing where your food came from and how it got there is a great start to practicing sustainable living. We're all pretty picky about what goes on our plate, but how often do we think about the plate itself? As our planet becomes increasingly crowded and resource scarce, now more than ever, making even the smallest of changes in our daily lives can have an enormous impact on our future. And where better to start than that place we all know and love, the kitchen table. That's why we created Ethos Plantware, tableware made from plants. You probably think waste only happens after you throw something away, but manufacturing itself can be incredibly inefficient. Ethos Plantware is made with a zero-waste process using just 3 ingredients: bamboo, rice, and cornstarch. Because Plantware is made from all natural materials, each piece is unique and alive with texture. We don't want anything toxic near our food, and we're quite sure that you don't either. That's why we only use organic pigments derived from natural sources, not made synthetically in some laboratory. Plantware is dishwasher safe, microwave safe, and unlike conventional tableware, chef-proof. It's really built to last, but if you do ever throw it out, it will completely compost within 2 years. We've already invested in developing our first prototypes, as well as obtaining the necessary FDA certifications for food safety. The next step for Ethos Plantware is to order the product molds and make our first production run. And that's where you come in, Kickstarter. With your help, we can make Ethos Plantware a reality. Let's empower ourselves and each other as we strive towards a truly sustainable lifestyle.
So that ties to Earth Day. But if you look, yeah. But once again, they talked about rewards. So you only saw a quick picture of it. They had a drink there, and they had a cup holder wrapped around it, and that's made out of hemp. Okay, now we think about that. We just got legislation approved to start doing hemp in Virginia. So getting farmers to approve to plant hemp. So these are things you look at that sit here and create, and once again, the dollar amounts, and you know, they're trying to get the buzz going. So once again, it's what are the dollars, you know, to create it. You know, and then you basically get what they're offering to you. And you see this key point? Only shipped to certain countries. Okay? May 2015. You know, this is kind of like how this is all looked at as you go forward.
You talked about some people would change their mind. How do you know that the money is not refundable before you ship?
No, actually what happens when your campaign ends, okay, at that point the money comes to you. It will so like it's sitting in, we'll just use the Amazon account. It's sitting there. You hit your campaign success, or if it's one of those that you get whatever, it's basically given to you. At that point they contact the people that basically put the money in originally and say, are you okay with this transaction? If they concur, it goes over. If they don't, then it just falls off, okay? So then at that point, the monies you get are literally the monies that was agreed upon, so those people that backed out or whatever.
So the money is not withdrawn immediately from their accounts?
No, it's held in that because, like Kickstarter, theirs is all or none. Okay, if you don't get your target, you don't get any of the money. So it sits. The others sit in that account until such time, you know, like when you book
I don't mean the person receiving, I mean the person who's giving.
No, it's just sitting there. It's just like you booking a hotel.
Oh, you don't get charged until you use it?
Yeah,
Okay.
until it actually does the crossover. And that's when they ask you, the reputable ones, ask you, are you okay with this? We're going to basically send the money over. You say yes, it goes. You say no.
Like Amazon's back orders?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, well, Carl, does it also work sort of like eBay that if I pledge, if I say I'm gonna pledge you $100, you still haven't got my $100. Who's doing that communication? Is it going through Kickstarter, for example, or
No, it's Amazon's actually doing that kick, because they're basically holding it. So Amazon's holding the money, okay? So when the campaign's over, they basically do the reach out with the email or whatever message communication they choose, goes to them and asks them, we are getting ready to release these funds, are you still good with it?
Okay.
So basically it's being run through Amazon, because they're the fund.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I would imagine you would see a higher success rate in shorter campaigns than you would in longer campaigns.
Excellent
too,
point,
because
absolutely, absolutely. That's,
think about it, or they do something different with the money.
yeah, and that's the reason why, you know, when people pretty much go beyond 30 days, you know, if they go 45, you know, I say, okay, but in reality, I sit there and say, guys, look, you know what you want to do, you know the impact you're going to make, you know, you'll create the buzz if you've done everything right, and you'll get what you need. But if you're sitting here that worried about it, then you really don't have it mapped out correctly. And that's the thing we try to stress to people all the time. It is very doable if you just put some time ahead of time into it. You know, this was thought out, you know, you know, when's the campaign release? It's released right when Earth Day is happening. You know, it was a strategic thought out process, you know, and that's why today, because Kickstarter decides who they showcase, okay? So this one got showcased there. It's all about understanding where things. If you're doing poorly, you never get to the front. You know, you don't get the picks, you know. If you're doing well, you make it to the front and they showcase you. And that's the thing you look at when you're dealing with this. So, I mean, that's the thing you look at when you're doing these type things is, what am I really trying to accomplish? And if I get this, is it going to let me complete the project that I wanted to do? And if it does, great. We just had somebody that got turned down by a bank, and they actually kickstarted to get their business going. And the business was growing, And they went back to that bank, and the bank actually funded at that time. And they basically contacted me and said, we are totally on board with crowdfunding. So, you know, it was interesting that a bank would actually send me an email to let me know that. And I've had a couple other banks say, yeah, they are definitely on board with the thought process. But they're younger people.
You know, one of our people that started out in the business challenge, he didn't complete the course because he had a time conflict, but he's got a Kickstarter campaign going on right now, and he's within $600 of his goal. He's got like 8 or 9 days left.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, you know, and that's when, you know, you talk about the business competitions and things like that. As I talk about, they're the winners, but the ones that don't, if we actually started making the competitions where they actually had to create YouTubes, then even if they didn't success, they still have something they can actually go out and actually do a campaign on. And this program is actually great for nonprofits, you know, because then if they're looking for matches, this is a way for them to show that there is interest, and then they can discuss this. If I hit this target, you'll match this. You know, so it gives you a strong leverage tool, because you're basically saying, I'm going to go out there and prove to you that this is worth your money to actually put into us.
Well, kind of what you're doing, in a way, is pre-selling your product, right?
Right.
I mean, whatever it is,
Yeah.
you're giving away. I mean, hopefully it's something that you're gonna either manufacture or a
Right.
service you're gonna provide. So you're pre-selling your products, and that's, if you go get angel investors or whatever, then you have something to show them, hey, look,
Yeah.
these people are already on board, so.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that's the idea, was because there are a lot of things that angel investors, venture capitalists will never touch, you know, especially a lot of nonprofits, what they're trying to accomplish and things like that. So, but because of the challenges nonprofits are facing today, they have to sit here and think differently. And this is a way to actually create a leverage tool to get that buzz happening.
Questions, what's an angel investor?
Angel investor is typically somebody that's in the local community that's very successful, and they typically will put in about $250,000. Yeah, that's typically their price range. If they do $250,000 to $1 million, you know, depending on where you're at.
Okay, now back to nonprofits. We're a historical society, so we're not manufacturing, or we don't have an invention to market.
Right.
How do we use this?
Basically, it's the same concept. What you're doing is you're trying to get those people that are interested in what you do as a historical society and create the buzz why they should invest in you. You know, so, yeah, go ahead.
Genealogy, one of the things that you all have a lot of is people coming to search for genealogy, so the genealogy research. Right?
Yeah.
We have existing stuff, we're not creating something new to.
It doesn't matter. You know, the thing is, nonprofits, those that have been around for years, are actually using this to go after their matches. So this is how they go and negotiate. Say, if I raise $10,000, do you concur that you will match basically with $5,000?
So we could use it for like new equipment.
Yeah, basically things that would improve your operation, and basically the purpose behind it, and tying to the group that would be interested in that because of what you're providing as a service.
I can see it too, as that's a way for community to get behind the project too. And you might get some people that had never heard of the historical society or had not been involved, and here through your marketing efforts to promote your campaign, you may get some new donors that had never been to the table before.
True, we did a little one on Facebook, on our group, we just said, hey, we need you to give, and we raised instantly.
Yeah.
And somebody did a match, and then everybody else popped up to make the match.
Yeah, that's all it is.
I think with nonprofits, that is the key, is having something tangible, because a lot of people aren't willing to just give a nonprofit money and not know, like, these are products, they know what it's going to and they know what they're getting, but as a nonprofit, if you can say, this is what we're using it for, people tend to be more.
No, well, actually, honestly, remember, do you know, originally why Kickstarter started, it was to the group that never could get money, and that was people that write books and movies. So that's originally what it started for. So even a movie, you don't even know what it's gonna look like. So it's, you know, okay, it's about the Civil War. Okay, great, what part of the Civil War? I don't know, you know, and that's kind of what you're basing off of. But they have to sell it. So even though you don't have something tangible, once again, as I tell everyone, nonprofits do a lot of great things, they just don't tout it.
Right.
And, you know, because when I sit there and I talk to nonprofits, tell me what you've done. And what they do, they just tell me what they do every day. I says, please put some excitement into this, because you're actually doing something very good. But it's trying to get people to understand, you come with a passion, you do get people interested in you. If you come in with, this is what I do every day, nobody's gonna come do anything for you. So, and that's the thing, yeah.
On these websites, I assume there's like a search. If I want to go on there and I think I'm really into recycling, or I'm into prison ministry, or I'm into the ballet, I assume there's...
But see, just like you talked about, and I'm glad you brought that up, you talked about the prison, okay? Those people that are incarcerated, that get released, they're never gonna get anything. They're gonna have a hard time finding work and everything else. There are ways to sit here and crowdfund and get them seed money to start their own businesses where people can sit here and oversee.
We would like to generate money to help with re-entry, to just get them water and electricity and a place to
Yeah, but
live.
if you sat here and looked at it from a business perspective,
Right.
you'll get more opportunities. So, just a thought, and because you establish that, then once you learn it, then you can sell that services to other people and make extra revenue.
You know, you had a list at the beginning that showed options to choose to put it under.
Mm-hmm.
What if you don't find anything you think relates to what you want to say?
Oh, you will. I'm almost positive of that.
Well, I
Yeah.
was looking through there and I didn't see anything for horse shows.
Oh, that's under pets, animals, things like that. There's a huge section about animals.
So
Yeah,
something
huge
like
organizations that are
pets.
just totally focused on animals.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it's there. That
How
one's
many
a big money
nonprofits
generator.
do we have here today?
A lot.
Did you get some ideas of maybe how you could use this, incorporate? Because I suspect it's getting tougher and tougher to generate those donors and keep them going, and this could be, to say, another option.
Prison ministry is not popular, let me tell
Yeah.
you.
No, but, you know, and that's the thing I try to bring up. Sometimes you're doing something for a good cause, but there's just not a, you know, people don't look at that as something they want to put their money to. And that's why I stress to everybody, this is kind of given another way to do it, because the thing is, people have doubts that you can raise the funds. Well, now you can sit here and say, if I get it, you match it. You match it in one way or another.
How do we generate those matching donations? I mean, what's the best way? Is it local businesses? Is it foundations?
It could be local. It's really how, you know, once again, this is working with the resources and having those candid discussions to determine potential people that would be interested in giving funds to that. You know, I've done this with some other groups. It was amazing once we started really expanding, people they never even really thought about that would actually be interested in that. But it was going outside the box, and that's what you have to look at. So, deal with it. And like I said, if you decide you want to look at it further, I'm happy to come sit with you and kind of step through it and guide you with it.
I might have misheard you in the beginning, but did you say that, like, if this is something you want to do yearly, this isn't the thing for you?
No, it's not. You mean you're trying to, as a nonprofit, crowdfunding on an annual basis type thing?
Right, well, like, we lost funding from Wholesome Wave to Double Dollars, so like, we're trying to get the money, and we'll need it once a year, every year now.
Well, but the one thing, remember, your campaign, you may say you need $10,000, just using it as an example, and you may get 50.
I mean, we are only looking to raise like $2,000.
Yeah, but what I'm showing you is, these campaigns have done well. You'll get beyond your limit, and then it gives you a strategy of how to look at it.
Right.
So that's the thing you gotta look at.
And you may want to package it different for
Yeah,
each one,
right.
that it's not what they're the code again, wanting the same thing, you might.
Yeah, every year you can put a different theme to it.
There's something.
Different calls.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing when I've worked with nonprofits, because the grant money and so forth is drying up, a lot of them want to start a for-profit entity to support the nonprofit, and they never had the seed money to do it. This may be an excellent way to raise the seed money for a business concept you may have. So that way you wouldn't have to worry about every year if you got something that's making money to support the nonprofit aspect.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying, this opens up just a different way to think, that's all. You know, not the traditional, it's saying, how can I make this happen? And the thing is, people are doing it, and they are getting successful at it, and there are people that are not. But like I said, most of the time, the people that have not, it's just because they haven't done the pre-work. They just kind of just turn on the light switch thinking people would come, and they forgot to tell the power company.
Yeah.
So when you put a goal out there of $1 million, is there some magic?
I like that, $1 million.
Yeah, is there some magic window that doesn't scare people away because they're like, oh, why should I even get it?
No, you know, the thing is that if they know somebody's just going pie in the sky, you'll never make it through the first group, the website. They won't let you through, because it says, okay, why does the historical society need $1 million? You're gonna have to really justify it, you know, because it's community. Now, if you're nationwide, it's different. If you're community, they're gonna really be looking at that very hard. So, yeah, well, everybody can always use the $1 million, yes, but that's kind of the thing. So, anything else? Well, then I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.